We're going to be moving from sort of the high level of politics, the prime ministerial level, to a more popular level. We're going to be talking about people, about how people can make their voices heard in democracy and in governance.
My first claim today is that, contrary to conventional wisdom, is not necessarily democracy to be in crisis. Democracy is alive and kicking. There's greater interest in what is actually happening. What we're witnessing is a crisis of representation. That is, the mechanism we use to aggregate preference and translating them into actual policy action. That's where we struggle. That's where the legitimacy coming from the electoral process is not sufficient, and where politicians themselves look for alternative forms or cumulative forms of legitimation. Let me step back. How can we lead change? This is a question that has been somehow epitomized by major movements. It's pretty clear that today voting is a bit too little. Again, there's just too much time from one election to another. And today we have the epistemic ability to actually contribute much more, so it's just too little. And perhaps running for office is a bit too much. It's not something that everybody can afford in terms of trade-off between personal and professional life. So the challenge is really, how can we capture what we feel in society? Electoral democracy, when you look at turnout at the global level, is going down. But when it comes to participatory democracy, the desire to contribute and share our skill sets and ideas is certainly growing. But we are missing such an opportunity because our system is not able to actually absorb those dynamics. I think what we need more to focus on in order to enrich representation is to have functions that somehow set the agenda by sharing ideas that come from the bottom up, but also provide advice. This is the role of mini-publics and deliberative democracy, but also hold representatives into account when they are not necessarily sticking to the social and political contract we have in our society.
I do believe that the public sector awakens some of the deepest emotions a person can have. Even small ideas that we foster can become great and sustainable public policy. So that is why today I want to ask you, for me, the most important question. How do you plant those ideas so that they can become long-term behaviors? The language surrounding public sector innovation has been changing in the last decade. Digital transformation, public sector innovation, GovTech, and we need a more open, agile, and intelligent public sector to address some of our most pressing challenges. My invitation here is that we really need to be pioneers and ambassadors for open governments. Innovation in the public sector is a leadership issue. It is not only a vision, it has to be a plan. We need more people imagining new and better futures, and that involves the co-creation with users. Citizens are our users. We must consider the public sector as a safe place to learn. So this is why governments are looking into policy experimentation as a fertile ground. In order to strengthen democracy, policymakers must become more future-oriented.
2 years ago, I was giving a speech to the United Nations to advocate the importance of digital citizenship, and in particular, these 12 rights that are basic for digital citizenship. We've always been told that representative democracy was a solution for a logistical problem. But today, it is possible to involve people with digital tools. It is possible for people to meet up in virtual agoras. It is possible for people to propose, to discuss, to vote online. It is possible to get people interacting directly. In Italy, we used a digital platform to get people involved, and we managed in around 10 years to get 2,500 people elected in office in various levels, using always a digital platform. We proposed the model of spokespeople and not members of parliament.
I'm here to talk to you today about why deliberative democracy and citizens' assemblies are one of the ways in which we can bring citizen representation and public judgment into democracy. there are hundreds of thousands of people across the globe who have now received invitations and have served as members of citizens' assemblies and citizens' juries and citizens' panels all across the globe. They have addressed real issues, things like what should be our 10-year, $5 billion strategic plan for the city? What should be our 30-year infrastructure investment strategy? How can we tackle online hate and harassment? How can we improve the air quality in the place that we live? How can we do more to prevent flooding because it's becoming more of a risk with climate change? And I can go on and on and on with the sorts of real issues that are complex and urgent that have been addressed in this sort of way. In the OECD report, Catching the Deliberative Wave, we have looked at 289 examples like the ones that I have just described. Start to think about how deliberative democracy is actually a way to strengthen representative democracy by opening up who is considered a representative and also bringing our imagination beyond democracy as just being reduced to elections. So the problem is rather, how can we rethink about changing the democratic system more broadly in a more permanent and fundamental way to make deliberative democracy an embedded part of democracy, develop a new initiative and a series of exhibitions around design and democracy, thinking about how democratic institutions, processes, and spaces can also be designed for a future democracy, because I think that democratic systems can change, and not only that, but they really urgently need to.